Right now, closing arguments are underway in former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan's federal corruption trial. It's a big moment from when the trial started way back in October. Our Charlie Wojciechowski is live at the Dirksen Federal Courthouse with what happened in court today. Charlie.
It has been a long time getting here, Alex. As you said, we've got more than 3 months of testimony in this case. We've had more than 60 live in-person witnesses and about 150 hours of videotaped and audiotaped eavesdropping by the FBI looking into this entire case. Mike Madigan and Michael McLean, the former Speaker of the Illinois House, and his closest confidant, charged with 23 counts, including bribery, extortion, wire fraud, a number of other crimes. What this whole case is about, according to federal prosecutors today, profit and power. Profiting from the money that was exchanged for jobs in this case, and the power that enhanced Madigan's office. Julia Schwartz is the U.S. prosecutor who handled the first part of the summation, and she said, ladies and gentlemen, legislation should not be bought, but that's what was happening here. They knew it because that's the way they set it up, she said. This is going to be a long process. The government's PowerPoint alone in this case, 800 pages. Now, we do have a few takeaways from what happened today. Again, the government case about power and profit. Now, some former federal prosecutors say because the rules have changed about bribery, this will not be a slam dunk, and we don't expect deliberations to start here until next week. That's because this summation phase we're in is really broken into 3 parts. The first part is the government summation, then the defense summation, which could come as late as Friday in this case, and then a government rebuttal. The judge has said he's not going to make them deliberate over the weekends, the jury that is, so that pushes the case back into next week, and everything is taking longer in this case than it is expected to have taken, so that case that was supposed to start on Monday, wrap up, could be pushed to later in the week. We'll have more for you later on. Live at the Federal Building, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.
Charlie, thank you. And closing arguments are expected to resume today in the corruption trial of former Illinois Speaker Mike Madigan.
So this means the trial is going on for more than 3 months now, and it is now nearing its end. NBC5's Sandra Torres joins us now in studio with more on what's been said during the closing arguments so far. Sandra?
Yeah, well, we heard things like legislation should not be bought. That's what prosecutors argued to the jury, adding that former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan and his longtime confidant Mike McLean conspired to enhance Madigan's power while lining their own pockets. So both men are charged with racketeering conspiracy, bribery, and wire fraud. Madigan faces an additional charge of extortion. Both have pled not guilty. Prosecutors pointed to the alleged scheme that the men had to trade jobs for favorable treatment of ComEd and AT&T legislation, saying that Madigan used ComEd as his private piggy bank. Now, here's former federal prosecutor Patrick Collins on what the jury may face when deliberating.
I think what might make a shorter deliberation, without knowing which way it's going to go, Mr. Madigan taking the stand. Either the jury is buying and bought his testimony, or they didn't.
So jurors have heard from almost 60 witnesses, hundreds of undercover audio and video recordings. But despite a mountain of evidence, former federal prosecutor Patrick Collins says that the case is not a slam dunk. So the prosecution is expected to finish summing up their case today. It appears the case will go into the jury's hands on Monday. There's no court on Friday, but that won't be made official until both sides have had their opportunities to sum up their arguments. Back to you, Michelle.
Of course, we will be following. All right, Sandra, thank you.
It is day 2 as prosecutors deliver their closing arguments in the Mike Madigan corruption trial. Today, we're learning there could be yet another delay in the case. NBC5's Charlie Wojciechowski standing by at the Dirksen Federal Building with the very latest from court. Charlie? He was there.
Well, Stephen, they were hoping to time out these closing arguments so that everything ended by Friday. That could allow the jury to start their deliberations on Monday. But now we are hearing that the government summations could well spill into Friday. That caused a cry of foul from defense attorneys who say they don't want a weekend interrupting their closing arguments. Did former House Speaker Mike Madigan abuse the tremendous power of his office? Or was he just engaged in the rough and tumble of politics in Springfield as usual? For the second day, prosecutors tried to sum up the case they have been making over the course of the last 3 months. Assistant U.S. Attorney Julia Schwartz telling jurors that the now 82-year-old Madigan put his personal profit above the interests of voters. She drove home that point by playing a recording of a phone call between co-defendant Mike McLean and former ComEd CEO Ann Pramaggiore, where she tells him, "You take good care of me, and so does our friend, and I will do the best I can to take care of you." What was the one thing Madigan does to take good care of ComEd, Schwartz asked? Their legislation. That's the corrupt exchange.
That's what's happening right now. They started out power and profit, and then they broke it down to the 23 counts. They have these 5 sequences focusing ComEd. ComEd really, I think, is the ball game. It's the feature sort of sequence that the government has focused on.
AUSA Diane MacArthur took over the government's summation in the afternoon, turning jurors' attention to FBI mole Danny Solis, who she called a walking microphone.
We thought we had a deal. Right now they want to hold off on it. Okay. All right.
The government alleges that Madigan needed Solis to bring West Side and Chinatown developers into his property tax-focused law firm. This was a man whose eyes were focused on client development because new business meant new profits, MacArthur said.
The big thing that happened in the defense case, Mr. Madigan took the stand. So I expect you're going to hear both in summation and then at the end how that, in the government's view, that Mr. Madigan's testimony doesn't jive with all the evidence they heard.
And a question from the jury gave us the answer we've been looking for, the judge telling them he's expecting deliberations in this case to begin not on Monday, but on Tuesday, pushing the whole schedule back at least one day. The government is still giving its summation at this hour. The defense expected to start tomorrow. Reporting live at the Dirksen Federal Building, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.